Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cone Racing League. You join us on a first night here at 7:30 PM for, of course, tier number 2, season number 8, round number 6. I am your host tonight. Jonathan is currently off with absence, so it is myself, CRL Freefall, your tier 4 regular commentator, and I'm joined by a tier 4 driver. It is the self-appointed head of the Aston Martin team, and he's got high hopes for these two boys tonight. It is the one and only. Make a big round of applause. I'm going to try my best with the desk. It's Spider Rob. How are you doing tonight, friend?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, man. You?
Excited, looking forward to this. It was a mental race. A couple of races anyway in the two tiers on Monday night. Tier 2 has been an incredible tier this season so far. Such a dynamic and an action-packed tier, so I'm sure they're in for a belter. Obviously, you raced this track on Monday night. You know some of the challenges that are ahead of the drivers here tonight. Tyre wear, more importantly, the temps, and of course, just those tricky curbs. It's going to be a belter, I think, anyway.
So long as these boys haven't got it as wet as what I had it in Tier 4 on Monday, I think all of them should be in for a good race.
Of course. On the coast of the North Sea here in the Netherlands, a short distance outside Amsterdam, it's not unlikely to get a bit of wet, like we've seen Tier 4, full wets into inters and then dries right at the end. It was a really one for the books. Dry here in qualifying though, and speaking of qualifying, Knowsley ATK in the Haas has a qualifying ban tonight. How did he get on last time out? Well, not too good when he's got a quali ban, and not too good in the race, if I'm looking right, if I can find him. I can't even find him. So obviously not that good at all. Somebody that did do well, though, was TTL_ID Shoe Stra, or ID Shoes, I'm going to call him. He was a reserve in for the Ferrari, making it the top position. His teammate and our championship leader, Euro Cross Liam, made it a Ferrari 1-2. It's amazing how well that team's done since I've left them. It's been incredible. Cyril McConey, Big Phil, the legend, made it the final step on the podium. And a big shout out to as well Strauss and Captain Nick. 2 good results for them, 4 and 5. Championship, then, of course, Cross Liam in the Ferrari takes top spot, 17 points clear of Steiny. Steiny, of course, been in run-ins, won championships here before. One to watch out, and Tigriff, former Tier 1 driver. Strauss in P4 ahead of McConey, Farrell, Dewell and DC. Very strong lineup there. Knowsley, like we said, serving a qualifying ban in P9 ahead of 4-star. The first of that group of drivers. You can see the old brigade, I like to call them. 4-star Captain Nick Clark and Tobes. Tobes is picking up the bottom of them rankings. He's in P19 on a single point, but big hopes for them boys tonight. Got to shout out the boys I used to roll with. Indian Jesus then putting in our first lap of the night, an 11.
Belter of a lap.
241. Solid banker lap. McConey an 11.318. Of course, pole in tier 3 was a 10.8. So I'm expecting pole times to hit those the mid 10s, maybe even a low 10 here, Rob. We'll see what the drivers can pull out for us.
Yeah, no, for definite. It is, to be fair, it's one of them tracks where you're either going to get every corner spot on or something may just put you off. But if you could put one of them solid laps around here, it's a nice crispy track to go around.
Absolutely. There's no better feeling than linking it up around here. You can go out and lick the track if you want. I don't know if that'll do anything performance-wise, but yeah, nothing better than linking up a lap around here, because it is quite a flowing track. It's tricky on the old DRS recovery. We can see Steiny coming down the DRS straight at the end of the circuit. Purple sector 2 for the German, but only 35% after one lap on hot lap. It really does drain through your battery. Through the final couple of tons there, 13 and 14 to 2, banked over the tunnel into the infield sports centre, of course, and he's going to stick to that right hand side to minimise his track distance up to the line, and it's a 1:11.112 for Steiny. There's a reason he's up here in the championship battle. Provisional pole indeed. Still 13.5 minutes to go. Let's get on board with Hobbsy, Mr. Oh No, as I like to call him. The most gentlest man you will ever meet, but when he has a spin, there's no reaction or no outburst like you've seen from drivers like me.
He's just lost it.
That is the exact words he'll be saying in the party. It'll be a quick, oh no, and back on his ways. Unfortunate for Mr. Hobbsy. I don't know how much you've watched the races so far this season, Rob. Is there any driver that's been catching your eye, though?
Well, apart from being what's it called, obviously biased towards my Aston Martin boys, to it's been very, very close, to be fair. I've been enjoying watching Tier 2 and Tier 1. Obviously, like you say, with Tiers 3 and 4, there's that little bit of, you don't know what's going to be coming, but it's still too close to call. It's still early days. We're not even halfway through the season yet, let's face it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on round 6, sorry, of 16, a slightly longer season, 1 race longer to be exact, than the usual seasons we have. I'm going to give a little bit of luck. So you know what? Let's give a little. My boy, I love him to bits. He's an absolute legend of this community, known for his antics and he just the random nonsense he gets up to. And you're one of your drivers here. We're gonna get a ride on board a lap of Zandvoort with Mr. Captain Nick 14, of course, the former aspiring pilot. He's gonna put a flying lap in for us round the dunes of the Netherlands. Coming into turn 4, then that tricky left-handed banked corner. Really, turn 3 is actually. Really going to catch it out through Hunsrug, this turn 4-5, before we get to Slotmakkerbok, which means Shoemaker's Corner in Dutch, I'm led to believe. Into turn number 8 here, and Masters. He's really mastered the line through there, using a little bit of that curb on the exit before touching the inside of turn 9, and this tricky turn 10. You've got to be careful in the throttle here, as War Daddy in the Mercedes having a retirement. A little bit of a strange place there, the way he's bounced back on track, but Nick trying not to let it adjust him too much before the tricky, of course, Hans Ernst section 11 and 12. Final 2 corners then, 13 and 14. Like we said, above the tunnels, Farrell pumps in a 1:11.0. Quickly beaten by Tigriff, though, by 15 thousandths. How's Nick going to compare to the rankings? DRS
He's on for something here.
The Aston Martin. Fair, 11.3. It's a decent banker from Mr. Nicholas. It is only a couple of tenths off the top as well.
There's not much in it, let's face it. I mean, the top 3 are definitely very close to it. Then again, it's very close between all the way down to P10, let's face it. It's still a while to go yet. Oh, but Nick's just lost it, though.
It's almost synchronised spinning there. I was on board with Waitsy, of course. He was a Tier 1 reserve dropping down into Tier 2, and he's had a spin on the exit of turn 9, I believe it is. Big shout out to Nathan and Jacob, our first chatters in the chat, I suppose. Can we get some spider dubs in the chat for our co-commentator here tonight? I think that's well than more needed. We definitely need some talented first to night comms to fill in the gaps, like tonight when unfortunately Jonathan is a little bit sick. So to have somebody else on standby when maybe I'm not available. Of course, I am a reserve in this grid, so who knows, you might see me make a return, not just in the comms booth, but on the track. On board then with Mr. Kevin Dewell, shaking about like, well, I won't say the rest of that sentence, but his internet seems to be struggling a little bit here tonight. How's he going to line up on the track? 12.
Only a 112.
Not the best time for Kevin, of course. A former 2-time Tier 1 champion finds himself down here in Tier 2, but he's enjoying the game as much as he can, and hey, he's a legend of this community. Nobody can take that away from wearing the tri-coloured helmet. I love his helmet. We can't really see it from the camera angle.
It's very similar to my helmet that I race with. Apart from me and orange, mine's white with the German flag in honour of Vettel.
I love that classic design. I think we've seen a few drivers do that. Steiny and Dragon on Speed, of course, 2 of our German drivers have rocked that before. While that was happening, Indian Jesus, he's currently in P5, but he's not going to improve upon that. He has lost the car on the exit of turn 3 into the left-hand side wall, and it is curtains for his qualifying just at the halfway mark. DeRoy, IRT DeRoy 3003. Or if you want to anglicize it, it is Derouge. He is in P10 at the moment, 11.48, but on a flyer, nearly 2 tenths up in his time. That would see him jump up to the likes of P5, but with a tricky final sector, there's still time to game here for the young Dutchman. Rounding the final 2 corners then in that beautiful Ferrari. And Strauss out of nowhere, I wasn't expecting that, a 10.91. Didn't even see that coming. How's DeRoy going to line up? It's a 1:11, a thousandths ahead of Tigriff, his IRT teammate. But Strauss, our head, not our head admin, well, our head admin, you would say, for this tier, runs the day-to-day basis of it. He's the first into the 110s, Rob. Beautiful lap from him.
Yeah, it's an amazing lap. To get down to 110 on this track, it's not an easy feat, but fair play to the man.
Absolute stonking lap. While that was happening, I was just trying to jump and see how he's getting on. 4-star in the Red Bull going to P6 with a 1:11.152. Of course, a shorter track, you expect these times to be more condensed, but when you take half a second between the top 12, and we've still got 4 cars eligible, it's nothing at all. 4 cars still to put a lap time in as well. Anything could happen. One of that is Greek Bill. He currently, where does he find himself in the standings? Currently P16, only 6 points scored, the Greek. I think one of the only 2 Greek drivers to race in CRL. He's the faster of the 2, or the higher tier of the 2, and only 6 points from 5 rounds, but he has missed a few due to various reasons, so maybe a chance to pick up some tonight. Clark PR, Mr. Callum.
Just retired.
Losing it seems, in Sector 2 on the exit of Turn 7. Greek Bill, an 11.835 for his first flying lap. And Steiny, well, we said it before, championship contender, a 1:10.853 for the Alpine. Solid lap from him.
You can just see the different levels in driving when you get higher up the tiers. You can see why these boys are out there placing Tier 2. It's just so much more closer. Well, as you can see from the top 1 all the way down to P15, there's nothing in it.
Absolutely. The difference between this is it's the slight turning, turning in that slight bit earlier, slight bit later, getting on the throttle, and that is the difference between, I've seen it myself when I raced at the start of the season, bottling a lap in China and maybe losing out on 3 tenths.
We don't talk about China. We don't talk about China.
But it's things like that. You make a little mistake, you bottle your best run, and you lose out maybe only 3 tenths. You think that's only 3 tenths. It's 10 positions. It's incredible how tight it is. And,
we've just lost Captain Nick. He's just had an unfortunate spin, and he's out of the qualifying session.
Nick, of course, the Spyron pilot, going down like a lead balloon right now. His mate Tobzo, a 1:11.245. 4 thousandths off Indian Jesus sees him slot in for P9 at the moment. 5 3/4 minutes left. I mean, that was a really weird way of saying it, but you know what I mean. So it's still some flying laps yet to come. T-Griff, I believe, is on one as we speak. The timing delta up the top right doesn't look right. It said he was 2.5 seconds off his time, and I think, that's going to be right. So probably a quick pit for the Haas and back out again. Tobes is on an in lap. Hobbsy is probably on a lap here. He's low on ERS. See, this is the tricky thing, like tricks like this, Rob. You think, that car's low on ERS, they're going to come into the pits, and he is. But when you're on a flying lap, you just drain through it anyway. Waitsy is on a lap. Let's get his run up to the line. It's a 1:11.363. Sees him slot in P11. I'm really glad I'm not on this grid tonight. I was doing 1:12s. That would have been totally outclassed. But again, another
Is it Scotty
lap
for Tier 4 then next season?
Oh, potentially, especially when the rest of the assists come off. It could be. I could be making my return to Tier 4 for the third time it'll be racing down there if it does happen. We'll wait and see on that. Strauss, the only other car out on a lap. He looks to be on a lap, judging by that ERS, so ride on board with him. Currently P3 at the moment, with a 1:10.991. We'll see if the Alfa Romeo driver can improve. Speaking of Alfa Romeo, we've got the Constructors' Championship going on, and they currently find themselves in P7. Aston Martin, well, let's try and not praise the Tier 4 drivers too much for that, because might not get you back out the door, but they are currently in 414 points here. Only 38 of those coming from this tier, so
still early days.
I'm not piling any pressure on them, but Ferrari though, P2 at the moment, as Strauss makes me look like a complete and utter fool jumping into the pits.
Into the pit.
I'm not sure if it's a validation or if he's just trying to get the latest lap he can in at all. Back to the Constructors then, Alpine at P3, only 2 points separating Ferrari. Of course, this is all pre-Monday night action, so there will be a little bit of change here depending on the results. I don't have the live table, unfortunately, but there is a little bit of change for that. Williams, Mercedes round off the top 5, Haas, Alfa Romeo, Red Bull, McLaren, and no pressure on Indian Jesus and Cole Paradox, but Alpha Tauri, the only team not to hit 3 figures. They're on 95. McLaren in 9th around 2:04. So big points haul needed from the AlphaTauri boys.
I say I'm quite shocked with AlphaTauri because they're the current, for Cone anyway, constructors champions, just narrowly pipping off Ferrari last season.
Yeah, and you look at their lineups, like, you know, Nathan and Jeroen in Tier 1, strong pairing, and then Tier 2, you know, Cole Paradox is a Tier 3 champion. Indian G's is a former Tier 1 driver. Of course, he switched the wheel and he's worked his way back up. Cole Paradox is in title fights potentially at one point last season. I can't remember off the top of my head who the Tier 3 drivers are. In Tier 4, you know, BX37 Pro, of course, coming in as a reserve. He's been in title fights before. Ghost Danger 1's been around for a while and is a solid driver. He can pick up points week in, week out. So it's just one of those... sometimes the luck just doesn't flow with you. A man that hasn't had too much luck compared to previous seasons is Real DC. He's going to be the first to probably set his last lap here. He was a couple of tenths up at the end of the second sector. That could see him jump from 15th up into the top 10. If he finds a little bit more time here on the run down to the line, it could push him in towards the top 5. It is going to be provisional P8 with a 1:11.161.
He might still get one more lap.
He might just get one in. He's going to be very low on ERS. He's going to have to go again on the same tyres, but he could potentially sneak one in. I think our next lap setter will be 4-star. He's abandoned his first lap. He's saving up that ERS. He's going again. Then we've got the two Alpines. Steiny, the front runner of the two. He's just about to start a lap. Is McConey on a flyer? It looks like he is. Up to the line then. How can Philip go? He goes provisional pole. With a 1:10.838, Philip, my salute you. Your improvement has been tremendous over
and it
not
is
just this
currently,
season,
as it stands, a front row lockout for Alpine.
Strong performance from them too. Steiny though starting his lap. I hate to say it, I think he'll be up challenging McConey. Let's look at his first sector. He's slightly down on his time. We'll come back to them. What about the Ferraris? D. Mortz, the reserve in the Ferrari, up to the line. Does improve slightly with a 1:11.118. His teammate in DeRoy up to the line. I believe he is just starting a lap. We'll come back to him a little bit later. AlphaTauri next. That'll be Cold Paradox. How can he do? He does improve with a 1:11.4. 6/10 separating our top 15 here tonight. It is incredible. DC is retired in the pits, and it is an Alfa Romeo next up the line in the form of M. Hobbsy, and he is starting a lap, so he's made me look like a right mug once again. We'll jump back to 4-star. I know there's a Red Bull coming towards the line. I don't think he did improve there at all.
He did not, no.
Sister Red Bull in Waitsy, how does he go? He is just starting a lap. Then we've got IRT Tigriff to finish his final lap. I think he was trying to start one and just missed out.
He was.
By a whisker.
It's still top 3. It could be worse places to start on this grid.
Steiny as well into the pits. McConey, provisional pole for Philip as it stands. How is D. Mortz going to do it? He's going to snatch it away. Pipped. A 1:10.7. Tobes goes P4 with a 1:10.857. DeRoy up to 5th. Cold Paradox next. I can hardly keep up with this. Cold Paradox up to the line. A 1:11.336. Jumps to P13. Who's next? It is Greek Bill. How can the Greek driver do in this qualifying session? Does improve, but not by enough. A 1:11.7. Another AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo coming next. It's the two of them. Look at Strauss. How does he improve? He does.
Strauss in 7th.
6/10 he improves by, but ever so slightly. And I believe that is qualifying. Unless Waitsy's got a little bit more in the tank. Not enough for pole. I don't know where he came, but that is us for qualifying. And what a qualifying it was. Waitsy did come 8th in the end there. But D. Mortz, the reserve in the Ferrari, cancelling out the Alpine 1-2.
What a steal that was right at the end. Right at the end. Just when Marconi thought he was safe. Well.
And look at that top 5. Look at the top. Let's include Tigriff in
top
this.
7.
You know, 1.104 of a second between the top 5. Less than 2/10 between the top 7. And like even the top 12 is less than half a second. D. Mortz then, your pole sitter, ahead of the sister the Alpine, sorry, of Cyril McConey, Mr. Phillip, and IRT Lucas Steiny. Tobes takes P4 for the McLaren ahead of De Roy in the sister Ferrari and Alpine, having a good showing here in qualifying on a track which is notoriously hard to overtake, and a good sign for those two constructors. T. Griffin the Haas, P6 ahead of Strauss, Waitsy, Farrell and Forster rounding off the top 10. DC, Indian Jesus, Cole Paradox make it a 3 in a row for the CRL boys, 11, 12 and 13. Captain Nick and Claire PR ahead of Hobbsy. Greek Bill, War Daddy do well, and then of course Nosley with the qualifying ban rounds off the grid. If this race though, Rob, is anything like qualifying, we are in for a belter of a time ahead of us.
Oh, we're in for a treat tonight. Definitely in for a treat.
Of course. 36, I believe it is, laps ahead of us here tonight. The skies are holding out for us. It's keeping dry, but will it stay dry for the next 36 laps? 45 minutes or so, of course. The 4.259 kilometre circuit, 2.646 miles for those that prefer that measurement, around 14 corners, 10 to the right, 4 to the left. Ferrari, we see them put it on pole here tonight. They have the most wins as a constructor here in the history of Zandvoort. Of course, originally built around the old supply roads to the fortifications along the beaches of Netherlands during World War II, used by both sides of the war. Now a bit more team battles in the form of F1 cars, but nonetheless, to some, they're just as important. And to some of these drivers tonight, these will be the only battles that matter for them in the moment. Tricky place to battle though, Rob. You've seen it for yourself on Monday night. A few incidents can creep in, a few safety cars can creep out, and it can really turn it on its head.
Yeah, it can. Just one safety car can change the entire race.
It's big shout out to everybody in our comments. I'm going to butcher some of these names. Apologies, my the Scottish accent and just speaking English natively doesn't really lend well to more European names. But a big shout out to, I think it's Cesar Garcia. I'm sorry for this one. Isaiah Robinson, I believe it is. Dennis Kunsden and Big Kaelin Barrett, also known as Mr. KXI. Big shout out to all you lovely people tuning in. 9 at the moment. I'm sure the numbers will hopefully creep up as the race
the drivers
gets underway.
Are now out for their formation lap, and I honestly can't call this because of how close qualifying is. It's anyone's game, let's face it.
It really, really is. Interesting split with the tyres in the back 7 or 8, I believe it is. The back 8, sorry, all starting on the hards. We're going to start bottom to top tonight just to change it up. Indian Jesus going at the alternative to his teammate who share that row on the grid. He's going for the mediums. DC and 4-star 10 and 11 going for the hards. And then the two in front of them, Farrell, Waitsy, both on the mediums. Strauss, the highest of the hard starters in P7 with the top 6. All opting for the mediums. It's a gamble on both, of course. Safety cars. This is Monaco with a little bit of grass around the edges. The walls are there. They're ever present. Spins and crashes are so possible. And it is a gamble because, let's face it, chances are there's going to be a safety car. It's a case of when and how does that play into the strategy. Drivers, of course, having a couple of options for their tyre compounds here, Rob. What was it you went for on the Monday night? Was it the balanced, the hard, or the soft? What is it
I went balanced on Monday, started medium, went hard, and then on the last safety car towards the end, settled for scrub softs, and unfortunately it didn't pay out my way. I ended up retiring in the pits with 1 lap to go.
Unfortunate, but yeah, the balance is the setup. Of course, it gives you 3 sets of softs for qualifying and a set of mediums in qualifying. That can carry across the race and give you a hard and 2 mediums, as we see in Alpine.
So one of the Alpines has gone for a spin.
There's another one for the back in I believe that is Farrell Waitsy in the Williams. Nobody doing the signature Joshua Evans 360. I've tried that a few times this season and yet to play it off. Oh no, Dewell's done it.
There
Kevin.
it is. There it is.
That is it. I love that. He's done another one. Getting the donuts in early is our Kevin, but we are now lined up on the grid for what is sure to be an exciting race. Make sure to stick with myself and
here
Rob
we go.
For the next 45 minutes as we get 5 red lights in the Netherlands. And away we go for the Dutch Grand Prix.
And Ferrari off to an amazing start as they approach turn 1, and he's gone.
Getting away clean at the front. Tigriff having a little look down the inside. Didn't quite have the move materialise, but for the most part, a very, very clean start all round. Nobody facing backwards, no yellow flags, no nothing untoward at all. And now they settle in to what is sure to be the biggest train you've ever have seen. Indian G's is already battling it out with Tobes and Waitsy in the mid-pack as War Daddy makes a move on Greek Bill down near the back of the pack. This is really going to turn into a DRS train here tonight. The lack of overtaking opportunities could really show through, and it might be a case of who has the lowest wings. Of course, the lower your wings, the lower the downforce, and the more careful you need to be in throttle. But the straight line speed can be so key around here, Rob. It's really a battle of the setups, a battle of the wits, and a battle of the bravery.
De Will seems to be struggling after giving us some of them donuts earlier. He's trailing the pack quite hard. The other McLaren spun as well. Tobes has spun.
Tobes, of course, qualifying P4, has spun it on the exit of turn 12. Not the way our young Mr. Toby would have wanted to go. And the McLaren boys down in P19 and 12, both suffering a spin on the first lap. Tigriff is looking mighty close to the rear of De Roy, of course. These top 5, Tobes was included in that. Where
Hobbsy has pitted.
Hobbsy into pit, Tobes into pit. Well, I wonder if there's maybe been some little touches in the mid-pack there during the starting sequence we've not picked up on, and wing
possibly,
damage.
But De Will's retired. He is out of this Grand Prix.
I do know, now I'll give you some little admin insider, that he has been struggling with connection issues recently. I love the duel. He's had a move with the missus, and they're settled into their home. I'm happy for him, but he said it himself. The connections in the French countryside, they're not as good as quite in the lively metropolitan of Paris, so it's been a little bit shaky for him. Cold Paradox going for a move on 4-star. 4-star actually dropping down quite a bit, losing out to DC. I wonder if there was a little half spin in there.
Tobes is spun again in Sector 1. It's not McLaren's day today.
Definitely not, and they could do with some points to help propel themselves in the Constructors. Currently P9 just pipping AlphaTauri as things stand. The front 5 not quite checking out as quick as they may have hoped. 4-star going for a move on Real DC down into Tarzan Corner. Do you know why it's called Tarzan? Well, you might do if you listen to Monday Night, Rob, and you do. So
I do like to watch them back, but it is on my to-do list for this week, because I've not watched them back this week, if I'm honest.
Fair enough. Steiny, though, has had a spin on the exit of turn 3 and lost his front wing. Put it on P3 in qualifying, running that front train, and he has lost it. And that has cost a VSC, or a virtual car of safety, for those that have watched me in previous seasons gone past before I was promptly corrected. Not so good. Yeah, do well just confirming what I was saying there. Connection issues, horrendous. I do respect that. As much as he'd like to continue, he's thinking of his other drivers, so I think that can proceed. Tobes going from bad to worst, and Steiny with the front wing having to cede positions left, right and centre. It's been a sort of calm start, but also a little bit chaotic. It must be said. Big shout outs to Strauss, though. He's currently keeping roughly within the train. He's just dropped outside that 1 second marker now. But the front hard runner could be a viable strategy for him as Tobes does retire in the pits, confirming a P19 at 20 for him, and do well.
Well, that's an early day at the office for McLaren. They can get their stuff and pretty much go for tea.
Pretty much get the dinner in, get the bed done, and call it good night. Rethink the strategy for next time. Farrell and Strauss having a lovely little ding-dong battle through the first sector. It's cost them a little bit of time to the cars in front. Farrell making the move into Tarzan Corner. I was going to tell you the meaning for that. It is because back in the day, this was just a field with little gardens called, I believe they were called kitchen gardens. Essentially, they were like allotments, and there just so happened to be where turn 1 is. That was owned by quite a large, hairy, quite intimidating man who was nicknamed Tarzan, and when he offered to sell the ground for the track, he made the request that he would do so on the basis that there was some sort of honour to him in the history, and therefore it is called Tarzan's Corner.
Fair play.
It's a track steeped in history. Every corner has a name, and every name has a meaning, whether that be drivers that have sadly perished, or drivers that were key to the building up of motor racing within Netherlands. It is a very historic track, and personally for me, one I'm glad to see back racing. And speaking of racing,
nice
Demorts and McConey going side by side through the first sector. McConey making the move for the lead.
But D-Morts isn't letting him go. He's keeping on him.
Keeping him honest, keeping him nervous is the Ferrari of D-Morts. Of course, it is a marathon, not a sprint. McConey a little bit lower here on the ERS, and that is a very, very hard. It's a very, very hard commodity to come around here in Netherlands. The Roy hanging in as well, so a little bit of rear gunner support for D-Morts in the making of the Roy. And of course, he's going to have the DRS assistance here. The rear wing going to be wide open here on the rundown to turn number 11. That'll let him save up a little bit of ERS, and it'll also let him close the gap much, much easier.
It is just such an impressive track. I mean, it's like you said earlier, it's just covered in history. You get so many good overtakes at moments where you wouldn't expect there to be any, let's face it. You just can't call what happens in the Netherlands.
It is one of those tracks, overtaking opportunities, aside from like we're seeing right now, down into turn 1, they're a little bit sacred. You need to take them when the opportunities occur, and sometimes that can result in drivers just getting a little bit brave, a little bit bold, and sending it when you don't expect it. And when it works off, when it comes off, it is incredible. A little bit insider info, Tobes sadly retiring due to rear wing damage on the car. So one McLaren being ruled out by French connectivity issues, the other being ruled out by a lack of a rear wing. A sad day at the office for the McLaren team, but they will rise again and go again in Baku next week, of course. Steiny pumping in the fastest lap of the fastest lap of the race. I thought I said there the fastest race of the lap. You'll notice this, Rob, first time commentating with me, of course, first time commentating in CRL. I kind of go at a million miles an hour and just rattle on nonsense.
Let's face it, that's what commentators do, though. They don't just commentate just for commentating's sake. It's you start here and you end up a million miles away.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody that knows me on a personal note, the boys in the party and such, they'll know that once you get me started, there's no real stopping, especially when I get a little bit of, shall we say, liquid courage. It
really does. Liquid luck down you.
Oh, it does. It certainly does ramble on and on and on. DC still battling out for P11 with 4-star, having a little look down the inside, not able to make the move come off. Clar PR hanging about in the background, though, just within DRS range. And we're starting to see the first of these little trains break off. You've got the battle for P4, the battle for P5, the battle for P8, which is an interesting one. The teammate duel between the hard runner Cold Paradox and the medium runner Indian Jesus. Then the battle, of course, for P10. 12 points paying positions here tonight, of course, so all of those in the top 12 getting a point. And then you've got a couple more battles further down, 13th and 14th between Bill and Knowsley. Captain Nick battling out with War Daddy, Hobbsy and Steiny a little bit adrift, and in reality are going to be praying for some sort of Bert Maylander intervention here.
I'll tell you what, it's an interesting battle going on between Captain Nick and War Daddy at the moment. Captain Nick not giving up position, but War Daddy is not letting him go.
War Daddy tucking in behind at the end of the DRS straight there, getting the maximum slipstream, the maximum at DRS, and he's sitting really, really healthy on the old ERS in comparison to Nick. So really, you don't want to say it, but it's more a case of when, not if, for War Daddy. We might see him try and make a move down into turn 1. He's using a little bit that ERS at his advantage. Has a look down the inside, pulls to the right.
Has taken the position. Oh, but Nick's not letting... no, War Daddy's got past.
War Daddy making the move. He left a little bit of space on the outside there for Nick, but Nick maybe playing it a bit smart, maybe playing it a bit cautious and thinking, you know, it's a battle for P15 on lap 8. It's not worth losing everything.
Steiny's setting a new fastest lap, 1:14.
Absolutely. Steiny, of course, a rapid driver, but you feel he's one of those drivers where when he has a bad race, it doesn't just go a little bit bad, it goes astronomically horrible.
Preaching to the choir there, Scott.
Oh, that's astronomically horrible race is my middle name. You'll find, Rob. It's my week in, week out. Further up the field, then the battle towards the front still raging on. This pack of four, 3.1 second, 3.2 second gap to P5, of course, all of those on the mediums, Strauss on the hards. If he can hold that position, running in a decent position, of course, that'll swing back to his advantage when the car's lighter on fuel, and he's got the mediums. He can really push here. D-Mort's ahead of McConey once again. DeRoy pressuring him like a blowtorch onto the back of the Alpine as nose lane. Greek Bill swap position for P13 and 14 respectively. But the battle really starting to heat up. DeRoy pretty low on the old ERS. D-Mort's sitting with a comfortable 36%. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but in comparison to the guys behind him, aside from Tigriff, who's also in that sort of percentage, he's sitting pretty healthy. Steiny pumping in another fastest lap and is, in fact, caught up to the rear of Hobbsy.
Steiny, even though he's having a bit of a bad race at the moment, he's still giving it his all. And he's still letting them know that he's still there.
Absolutely. He is waiting for that, he's gonna pull some time back on the pit stops, of course. It's gonna be tricky to make those mediums go to the end, but he knows that he's an experienced driver. He's been about for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been here, in fact longer. So he knows how these races can go, and all it takes is one little incident, one little safety car, and he's right back in that. Hobbsy, the same idea. He's been about the block more than once. He knows that, it's not worth just pulling out, retiring. Let's keep going, let's keep racing. Stay in the lead lap, and you're fine. And that is exactly what those guys are doing. Farrell is closing down. That was a very, very lunging attack through turn number 3, Farrell. We do know, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, he's quite the aggressive driver with his style. He likes to attack corners.
He likes to
go for positions, attack corners, attack drivers, make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but do it within the letter of the law as well. And he's really pushing the boundaries here with Strauss, trying to go as late and on the brakes as he can, of course. He'll be braking a little bit later on the mediums compared to the hards. Maybe not so much now as at the start of the race, but you do feel likes of himself and Waitsy are being hampered, being stuck behind, particularly at the start of the Grand Prix, behind the hard runner of Strauss. Of course, they could clear him now, but it's so hard to catch the pack in front because they're just going to DRS away in front from each other, and you're going to have the danger of Strauss attacking him back with the DRS. Still no penalties though, which is always good to see. It's a tricky track.
Clean.
Tricky track to get them. We did see a few on Monday night as McConey loses out P2 to DeRoy into turn number 1. They can creep in. There is the odd bit here and there, but it's one of those tracks where you're not going to get punished too hard with penalties, because if you're cutting the corners and abusing the curbs, one of them's going to bite back before you get too happy with it.
The only thing with Derouge, he has used up 95% of his ERS, so it does mean McConey is going to get the edge on him very soon.
Definitely, and especially you're looking at this gap, 9.5, or 0.95, sorry, the gap to his teammate. He has closed it down a little bit, with his teammate dropping, just lifting off that little bit, because of course you need to be within the 1 second to get DRS. If DeRoy didn't have the DRS from D-Mort's in front and he's on that low ERS, he's just a sitting duck waiting to be swallowed up. But he's managed to creep back in and hold on, and that'll help pull him along, and he can actually now start to save some ERS.
You do feel the difference in your car. I mean, obviously, as a driver yourself, you'll know, obviously, the car does feel 100% different the more you go through that ERS. And it is just knowing when to use it, especially on tracks such as this.
Absolutely. You've got to be tactical with it. There's, particularly in the lower tiers, and I think I don't see it as a criticism. I see it as more as an opportunity for some drivers to learn as we get a little bit of contact there between Farrell and Strauss at the mid part of turn 1. A little bit elbows out, both drivers coming away pretty scot-free, but Strauss losing out the position. I think, to be honest, it was a losing battle either way, but maybe losing a little bit of time. Now he's at the mercy of Waitsy behind, who's not going to Waitsy around for long before trying to get this move done, pardon the pun. But yeah, back to what I was saying, the tier 3 and tier 4 particularly, I've raced with them, I've commentated them over a number of seasons, and there can be a time some drivers have a more aggressive stance with DRS. You see this more in the lower tiers. They like to just push. Or sometimes it's better, the guy behind's got DRS, he's got, you know, he's on a better strategy. Let's just save the ERS and then use it when I need to, you know, put in a belter of an in lap, put in a belter of an out lap, use it when the opportunity arises to try and score past this person and break the DRS behind. And you see that more in the tier 1 and tier 2. It is that balance though, because you can be too cautious with it. And of course, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that is what can happen under a safety car. And we've seen it so many times. Waitsy trying around the outside. We haven't seen that move attempted much. He's got the mediums versus the hards. He's going to make it stick inside to the little kink for turn 2 and makes the move done. Brilliant racing by Strauss and Waitsy there. Plenty of respect. And Waitsy getting the move done up to P6.
Clean racing. Can't fault it in any way.
Absolutely, the battle for P8 has intensified a little bit. 4-star Real DC and Clar PR hooking on to the rear of this Alpha Tauri train of Indian Jesus and Cold Paradox. Of course, you might think, oh, they're closing up, they're catching. It's one thing to catch, it's another thing to overtake. And particularly in trains like this, as Indian Jesus runs wide, just as I speak about it, through turn number 9, takes out one of the brake boards, unfortunately, losing it on the outside curb, just taking a little bit too much speed in. And like we've said a few times, these curbs, if you abuse them, they will abuse you right back and spit you out.
Don't forget that we are now starting to come up to the point where we are going to be starting to see the first of our pitters, especially those that are on mediums. That time is coming because we are now approaching lap 15 of this race.
Yeah, lap 15 to sort of 18 is where we expect most of the mediums to jump in and stick a set of hards on to the end. So the undercut could be coming in soon. And of course, once one of them pulls the trigger, particularly in this front 4-pack, it'll be one to watch. The rest of them might do so. War Daddy, after dispatching Captain Nick, he's caught up 5.5 seconds and got the move done on Greek Bill. A quick driver is War Daddy. I believe he is a reserve as well. Showing a little bit of inconsistency when he has raced, but when he can put a lap together, he is a mighty fast driver and definitely up there to be able to compete within this grid. Knowsley, after having a qualifying ban, is up to P13, and Hobbsy,
and we've got a safety car, Scott.
The spin on the exit of turn 1, like you say, safety car. This is dreamland if you're on the mediums. It is the choice of, if you have, of course. Now, if you're on the mediums, you're pretty much banked. You're guaranteed. You're gonna get a pit.
You're gonna get a free pit. Now everyone's gonna be coming in.
Here's a big one.
And it's a double pit for Ferrari,
and a 5-second penalty for DeRoy as well. So he's got the double stack and the speeding into the pits penalty. He's paying double the time for this. Strauss continuing on the hards. I wonder if there was anybody in the hards going to risk it on the mediums and hope for maybe a later safety car. DC
couple
is
of the hards have come in.
Knowsley. Because there is the case, of course, if you maybe have, if they've went the harder compound, there's the really, now bear with me, the really alternative strategy where you pit off the hards, put on a set of softs, do one lap onto the safety car, come back in again and put your second set of hards on. You've done your 2 compound tyres, you can make it to the end. The mediums are going to struggle. It's not out of the realm of possibility though if we get a couple more laps under safety car. Cold Paradox and Strauss, the 2 CRL Dutch admins, of course, the tier 2 admins here, opting to stay out, as does 4-star up into P4 now. And crucially for Maconi and Tigriff, you know, one of the Ferraris has been slightly, I think it's safe to say, dispatched from the battle because he's got a 5-second penalty. Unless there's another safety car, he could be completely out of there, and that just depends on the timing to get it served and whatnot. But they've also, crucially, 4-star on the 14-lap old hards is in between Demort and Maconi. Now, Demort has, of course, got the clear Cold Paradox and Strauss in front, but he has got a little bit of cover behind at the same time, so that really shifts the dynamic. And it's good news if your name's Steiny and Hobbsy as well, this safety car. We said about them, Steiny, the wily old German. He's held in this. He's on fresh hards to the end. Yes, he's going to be outpaced by the medium guys in front for a few laps, but he's got the pace and he's got the consistency to maybe claw something back from this race. So a nice, interesting turn at the halfway mark here, Rob. And DeRoy does
coming in for his 5 second.
serve the pit. He's going to put on a set of mediums. He must have gone for the balance setup. We'll see if this is a fresh set or whether...
It is a fresh set.
Oh, I was wondering, could this be like the Giga brain play where he puts on the old set of hards, or the old set of mediums, sorry, does another lap, comes back in, he's going to be at the back anyway, and puts on the same set of hards.
Captain Nick is also coming as well.
Captain Nick coming in, putting on another fresh set of mediums and a fresh front wing. So I wonder if he had wing damage from before. And of course, we know there's the glitch in the MFD where if you have it set to auto, the game just decides you're not getting a front wing.
I have been stung by that one a few times myself when I was racing.
It happened to me in Monaco, funny enough. I got a wing damage in lap 1, tried the pit at the end of lap 1, had to do a full lap with no front wing. Well, 2 full laps with no front wing. And by that point, I was a lap and a half down from the lead. So, you know, a lap and a half down from the lead after 2.5 laps at Monaco. Yeah, there was an early bed for me. Hobbsy doing similar actions to Captain Nick here. He's on fresh mediums, of course. It'll display as 1 lap fresher. Yes, they're going to be a percentage or 2 better weared, but it's not going to make much difference compared to the rest on front. But so
there is only 3 drivers that haven't come in, Scott. It is literally Strauss, Cole Paradox, and 4-Star that have decided to stay out.
Yeah, it's a bold call by them 3. It could pay off in the right. If we get another safety car, say, in, I don't know, maybe about lap 22 or so, it could really pay off for them. Maybe lap 20. Of course, there is the old habit in F1, don't we? We all know that safety cars can breed safety cars. It bunches the pack up. It does things like this, where you've got older tyres, mixing it in at the front of the pack with newer, faster tyres and maybe faster drivers as well. So it can really sort of put a cat amongst the pigeons. I suppose, though, Strauss...
It's keeping them hards warm. That's the only thing under a safety car. Once they've been out for so long, if the safety car just keeps going and going, those hards do get so much harder to keep warm.
Absolutely. They get so cold, and it is hard to work them up. And it's bad enough having cold tyres. It's bad enough having old, worn tyres. Combine the two, and especially in a track like this, you could be playing with fire.
Could be a dangerous game.
It's a straight. I can sort of, to a degree, I can understand Cold Paradox and 4-Star. They're a little bit down the grid. They've got less to lose. Now Strauss was running P5. He would have been. He would have slotted in around about Farrell and Waitsy. So he maybe would have been about P8, P7, P8 now, depending. Of course, he did lose a couple of positions on fresh mediums, with what is essentially going to be 18 laps to go. We're at halfway mark, so it could have played out for him. We'll see how this plays out, because Rob, we're about to get racing again.
Oh, I can't wait for this restart. Is it going to be as clean as the first as it happened, or are we going to see someone trying to bomb it down, and are we going to see another safety car? That is the big question now.
Absolutely. Of course, there's a little bit first lap, people playing it safe. There's a long race to go ahead. There's only half of it still to go, so we might see a little bit of risky moves start to creep in. A little bit of danger. He's leaving it late.
Strauss is leaving it very late. He's bunched them all up.
And he's away, maximising the tyre temps, of course, minimising the slipstream. And we are nearly 4 wide into turn 1. We're almost 6 wide there. And this is bunched right up. D-Morts has been caught slacking. He gets pinched between the Alpha. He got pinched between the Haas and the Red Bull.
Not as clean as the start.
That was just a case. I caught that perfectly on board with D-Morts. That was a case of 3 just does not go into 1.5. It just, the space was there, and then it wasn't. And unfortunately, T-Griff, who was running well up in the front pack of this race, is retired on lap 18 out of 36.
It's like I said at the start of this stream, this track is not forgiving.
Absolutely not. The slightest mistake. It's not only the walls are so close, the curbs are so unforgiving, the track is tight as well. There's not a lot of width here to get side by side. Somebody that is side by side though, PR and Waitsy, they're having a little bit of back and forth through the final sector, and further behind, the Roy is starting to peel his way back up through the grid. We've seen what kind of pace he has. There's a few cars jumping into the pits.
Coming in, I think a couple of cars picked up damage, and there's a 5-second penalty for Waitsy speeding in the pit lane.
It's just gone bad, from bad to worse for a few of our drivers on this restart. It's a dangerous thing with safety cars. It can kill or make your race. It can bring you back in when you have no hope of anything. It can just totally nullify your lead when you're cruising to victory, and it can put you in some dangerous situations having to battle again when you've already, maybe the pack has spilled out. We seem to be back past that sort of chaotic phase of the Grand Prix and back into the train.
Strauss has played a belter from that safety car. That reset, he's done exactly what he was aiming for. He's now got a nice gap between him and P2. He's still on old hards. That couldn't have been a better safety car restart for him. Unfortunately for Griff it's not, but for him.
So he played it smart. He left it late. He waited. He minimised the slipstream down to turn 1. Everybody else was ready to go, and just went a little bit too early. And they started to get side by side and started to bunch up a little bit. And from there, it just sort of caused chaos behind. D-Morts, of course, was in P2, I believe, or P3 it would have been on track. He was behind Strauss and Cole Paradox. He got sort of swamped on the restart, and it can be so dangerous and so even just a little bit intimidating when you're going slightly slower. It's maybe only 5-6 miles per hour slower, but down to the run up, and you've got a car on your left, car on your right, 2 coming in behind. It can just totally throw you, and you go really cautious to try not cause any damage, and you end up losing position. So he's going to have to fight back through the field. Next on his list is 4-star, one of those cars that has not pit. Of course, provisional P3 is D-Mort. The 3 cars of Strauss, Co-Paradox and 4-star all needing to pit. 4-star, you can't help but feel, has maybe played his cards a little bit wrong here when you consider he was fighting with real DC before the safety car. DC a little under a second behind and is on effectively his final strategy.
See, the question we have to ask ourselves is, are they going to go hards to medium and come in any second now, or are they going to try and pull a hards to soft?
It's a gamble at that. It is. Maybe it is going to get to the case where if they pit for the mediums now, they gain nothing. So they might as well try and stretch it. You know, we do know Strauss, Co-Paradox, and particularly 4-star. 4-star a couple of seasons ago, a couple of games ago, when it was all about the soft medium, that was the optimal strategy. He was the king of the hard. His qualifying performances would maybe let him down at such. He'd maybe start in the bottom half of the field, but he'd slap on the hards to start the race, go it long, and when the safety cars came out, he was in prime position, and his racecraft and his strategy craft was good enough to score points. That's maybe came away from him this game with, you know, everybody pretty much want to start on the hards. It's pulled the rug out from him a little bit, but he is good at saving the tyres. He is good at going long and keeping the car intact. So maybe that's a strategy himself, Cole Paradox and Strauss are going for. McConey, though, is in dreamland. Yes, he's 1.3 seconds off the lead. He's going to the end, and he's got a 2.4 second gap to Cole Paradox behind. Building himself just a little cushion is our Phil. And then when the 2 or the 3 cars, we should say, do go for the mediums, Farrell's going to have to push to try and catch up, and he's not going to have DRS, so that means he's going to have to burn ERS. And if you burn your ERS catching up, it makes it so much harder to get the move. Getting a move done soon, though, it looks to be DeRoy on DC. DeRoy, amazing comeback, it must be said, when you consider he had the 5 second, he did an extra pit stop, he started on the mediums, went hard, back to the mediums, and effectively you remove them 3 cars, he's provisional P5, and he's right on the tail of DC, who's provisional P4, and D-Morts, who's provisional P3. It's been a stonking recovery drive from our The Roy. Indy Jesus as well, a little bit under the radar here. He was just battling out in the mid-pack with his teammate. He's on for a good position as things stand. And War Daddy, I said when things go right for him, they go right. Again, went from the back of the pack to right up there, and somebody that's not going right. It's Farrell,
Arrow.
our native Irishman, the teacher, showing us the lines not to take. He will never have made any of his students write a line that bad for any kind of punishment, and he's ended up in the wall. I don't think there's much damage to the car. He might have just had a spin, but he was running up there. He was the next contender for McConey. That puts D-Morts back up into provisional P2. The Roy's got the move done on DC. He's trying to get the move done on 4-star. He's in provisional P3. DC now provisional P4. And it's, again, like we say, it's a really, really unforgiving track.
It is. It's just you can lose the car at any point if you don't treat them corners well. I've done it several times, offline, online. I'm pretty sure you've done the same, Scott. So it's one of them tracks where if you do it nice, it's a great track to race around, but the track doesn't like it.
Absolutely. To get your maximum pace, it's like any track. You need to push the limits. You need to really push those corner entries, push those corner exits. But if you don't know how to push them in the right way, they will chew you up and spit you out faster than you can say. What's the longest circuit name? Bocht. Sorry, I was just waffling on there. War Daddy closing in to the back. Clor PR going for a move on Captain Nick. The two of those going side by side through turn 2, just enough space and no more. A little bit of interlocking wheels, and Nick's into the wall.
Oh no! I don't want to sound biased, but that's one of my boys, and it's another safety car, Scott.
Another safety car. Strauss, Cole Paradox, and 4-star into the pits. And I do know for a fact, Clor PR and Captain Nick, they're in the same party that I used to be in. And oh boy, I wish I was in that party right now, just to hear the reaction going on. Just a locking together of the wheels. I think, everybody that's retired on track, I have captured them being disposed of, shall we say.
You've been in the right place at the right time. Every single time.
It's like, Cars 2, where they point the camera at the cars and then magically disintegrate their engines. I'm feeling like that tonight. Strauss, as we expected,
is coming in.
I'm curious. So, let's say about 10 laps by the time, the safety car comes on. Is it going to be mediums or softs? Mediums, of course, is the safe bet.
You could push softs, but it is a mediums he is going for. You could push the softs at this point if you take care of them.
The benefit is, of course, he's going to be on fresh softs when everybody else around him's on old softs or old hards. So he's going to be really, really punchy
has
with
risked
them.
it.
Jamesy 4-star risking it for a biscuit on to the softs. A few more drivers in the form of course, Greek Bill and Clor PR. Clor PR probably having damage from that incident with Nick for a set of mediums. 4-star on the softs. We will watch your career with enthusiasm. Shall we
It's going to be the one to watch for the next couple of laps for sure.
Definitely. And you look at those. So now it's quite good for us because we don't need to worry about net positions. This is the positions as things stand, of course, pre-stewarding and pre anything else that occurs. You've got your top 6 all on a mixture of 9 to 10 lap old hards and mediums. Then you've got Strauss. Now, Strauss was qualified P5, he started in the hards, he showed good pace in the hards, and he's now got a huge tyre advantage over those in front. Could be a late contender for a push.
Even the cars behind him, the 3 cars behind him, are also on 10 to 9 laps old tyres as well, so Strauss is in a really good prime position here. Plays his cards right, he could be looking at a podium.
Definitely. He needs to keep it clean and basically just use that tyre advantage where he can. 6 cars stand between him and a win. We'll see if he can pull that off. For the back, of course, we've got Cole Paradox, the sister CRL tier admin. He's in P11, just on the cusp of the points. And you'd fancy him to pull himself up a bit more, as is 4-star. Waitsy then into the pits, as is Knowles, the ATK. We'll see.
The thing is, that will take the 5-second penalty off of Waitsy as well, because don't forget he was carrying that 5-second penalty from the last safety car after speeding in the pit lane.
Absolutely, it's It's a good call from him, whether he's putting on mediums or softs, whatnot.
Softs.
I would imagine then, by the time these guys group up to the back, this is going to be our last lap under safety car. That will give us restart on lap 27 of 36, leaving us 10 green flag racing laps to go. A nice little sprint to the end. Big shout to everybody in the chat. 13 viewers currently tuning in. Nathan saying, so unfortunate for Tigriff. It was an unfortunate pinning. So one of our potential podium sitters exit this race. And big shout out to Mr. Jamie Morris, aka Indigo, saying, hi, I'm your biggest fan. We love you, Jamie. Make sure once this race is finished up to tune in with him for the Tier 1 race. If it's anything like this, Rob, I don't know if my heart can take the action.
I love watching Tier 1. There's nothing better when I get home from work on a Saturday. I do 2 jobs, but on a Saturday I watch Tier 1 on a Saturday. And I love watching because how close it can be. Obviously, that's where the big boys play. That's where everybody wants to be.
It's incredible. Some of these guys, they put in mental hours into the game, and the way that they craft their setups, the way that they attack a lap, it's you think you're doing everything right. You think, how can I maintain? You watch, why is he taking that corner in that gear? And you try it, and it's miles quicker. Meanwhile, we are back to green flag racing. McConey taking a different approach from Strauss. He's gone early, and he has gone quick. DeRoy doing a little bit of weaving there on the straights, trying to get some heat into the tyres. Maybe a little bit
late
naughty,
for weaving.
Yeah,
that could be one. That could be a one for the stewards to maybe look in, because that's not allowed.
It is okay at times when there's nobody around you, but when you're on a restart and there's cars quite behind it, yeah, answers on a postcard with that. Battles in the midfield going on. Strauss is up to P6. He's dispatched one of the cars ahead. Farrell, must be said, has pulled himself back into this despite this spin. He's currently in P8. Of course, losing it on the final corner. But Strauss...
Oh, we got a spin from the AlphaTauri. I actually got to see that one. I was there this time.
That one was on you. Commentators Plus is real, of course. Those that tune in on a Monday night know all too well I'm handing it out left, right and centre.
Is that why I spin out so regularly, Scott? Is it you?
I'm pleading the fifth. I'm saying nothing. DeRoy, though, getting past his teammate of D-Morts for P2. He's going to try and hunt down McConey, of course. He's on the mediums versus McConey's hards. As we've got a double retirement.
And that's a collision.
Greek Bill, and it's another safety car.
Safety. Now this is where everybody comes in and goes, you know what? Let's get them softs on.
Oh, see, it's a gamble. It's so hard for the guys at the front because yes, there's the desire and the instinct to do that, Rob, but you lose so much in track position.
You do.
So it's a risk either way. If you stay out and everybody behind you goes in, you're...
Truth be told, Scott, what would you do at this point if you were on the... Because obviously this is where you could have been racing, obviously if you decided to stay racing. What would you be thinking right now, sat in that cockpit?
If I was racing right now, I would be sitting with my feet up because I would be retired on P18 probably. But if I was still racing, if I was at the front... Now, particularly the medium runners, they are all right. They're going to be a little bit pacing. The hard runners, that's where it's a 50. If I'm in McConey's shoes... I think you've got to stay out because it's so hard to overtake round here that even on the fresh softs, you're putting yourself at risk. Yes, you could get swarmed and you could lose a few positions, but he could pit the now and the grid's that tight together. He's going to drop to P13 if he does, and nobody else.
They're coming in from that last corner now. Is anyone going to gamble? The Alpine is in, the Ferrari is...
Oh, it's a fakey! Oh! The fakey, the two of them. And that was just legal. They just swerved before the line. And nobody in the pit apart from Steiny. Steiny in P11. Of course, he's not going to lose out too much. They're not going to lose too much. I can see why. You know, they're at the back. They're not going to lose any track position. Steiny as well, getting a new front wing. So he's been carrying a little bit of damage. He is in and they're going to lose out to Waitsy. But these three at the back on the softs are going to be super aggressive and super punchy. You've then got the sort of mid-pack of Cold Paradox and 4-Star and Clear PR on the newer tyres. And really, the only outlier here is Strauss. We've almost got a reverse grid of the new tyres at the bottom and the older
Old
tyres
tyres
at
at the
the
top.
front. And the only thing, this kind of maybe plays against Strauss, because he was hoping for these tyres to die off in front of him and for his to come into the prime. It's given them a little rest. It's given him a chance to, his tyres aren't going to be quite warmed up the same.
I'll tell you who may actually be suffering from this. 4-star. Don't forget, last safety car he came in for some fresh softs, had a lap with them, and now he's stuck behind a safety car again.
Exactly. It's a big shout out, sorry, just to jump in. Panda, an absolute legend of the community, saying James could be leading that this is 4-star. I think it's a little bit delayed because he's the only one in soft. So Panda, he's raced in every tier you could think of, even the tiers we don't have. He was thinking everybody was going to pit in, saying that staying out was the worst option. Think of Russell last season. Well, Panda, you've been proven wrong. It's going to be another restart for McConey then, Rob, and he's changing up his approach.
How's he going to take it this time? I think he's going a bit more... no, I think he's going to just... He's off.
That was a strange one. The first one we seen was Strauss. He backed up the pack, left it late. The second one, McConey just went. And this time he sort of backed up the pack and tried to catch them sleeping. He's caught D-Mort sleeping, it must be said, as Strauss and DC have a little bit of a ding-dong battle. They come together! Strauss, I've done it for the third time! Oh, another one in the words of DJ Khaled.
That's both me, Aston Martins, and a Mercedes is gone!
Clark PR having a spin. Strauss and DC coming together. Very, very similar to the Captain Nick and Clark PR. But just caught as well there. Relentless. Farrell losing an end plate to War Daddy. He is currently in P5 and he's going to really struggle for these last 6 laps, particularly on the old hards. McConey, 3 tenths clear at the front. D-Morts has got a little bit of pace. Hobbsy has had a spin, as has, I believe, Cold Paradox has had some
yellow
sort of
flag,
spin.
But no safety or VSC.
4-star on the softs, up to P6.
Oh, there's a bit of a bump between the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull, obviously the sister teams of each other.
Little bump of Waitsy and Cold Paradox. 4-star lining up a move then on Farrell. Farrell is going to maybe come into the pits. No, he's going to opt to try and defend without the end plate. You can just see the difference in setups there, even with the ERS. The Williams, of Farrell pulling a little bit ahead. Further behind, there's a little bit of a battle going on. Indian Jesus into the pits, probably wing damage for him. 13 cars still in this race, Rob.
We've had 3 teams pack it up and go home early. Obviously, we had McLaren early doors, then Haas, and now my boys, Aston Martin. We're off home. We're off down the pub for the evening.
It's been a disaster for those 3. Of course, Williams also one to retire. Farrell doing his best to make his car wide as 4-star goes for a move down the inside and understeers a little bit into him. Farrell getting the elbows out.
There's a spin!
And that was a coming together between Waitsy and Farrell. Farrell trying to defend without an end plate and pulling a few into a little bit of elbows out combat, shall we say. I'm not too sure who could be at fault of that. It might be one for the stewards. It looked like a little bit of a coming together, though.
I think everybody's got in their head at the minute. There's 5 laps to go. Everybody is clutching at straws to try and get on that podium, let's face it, because there's still not much in it.
Absolutely. It's all up for grabs. You've got these 3 soft runners as well. 4-star, Steiny and Waitsy. They've got a couple of seconds to make up to P4. But on the new softs versus 17-lap-old mediums, let's put that into perspective. 17-lap-old mediums. Yes, there's been a few safety cars and whatever, but even that number alone is a bit mental. They're going to scythe through this gap and really cut it down hand over foot. So we might see them, maybe, a podium couldn't be out of the cards for one of these guys.
Well, both the Ferrari boys are trying to hunt down McConey, and it could be a Ferrari one too, because McConey has only got 20% left on his DRS. Sorry, ERS, not DRS.
And of course, speaking of DRS, it is going to come into play as McConey gets a slow exit from turn 12, a little tap from DeRoy.
That will be one for the stewards.
Oh, that is a case
will be one.
2 drivers going at different speeds, one thinking the other's going to go quicker and are coming together. Ooh, that definitely could be a referral for the stewards. That really heats up the battle, though. For, well, there's one of the guys in this battle, Steiny, putting in the fastest lap. They were 2.4 seconds adrift War Daddy to Waitsy this time last lap. It's now 1.1 seconds, 1 second now. And with, 4 laps to go, you'd fancy their bets at catching up and trying to make a move on the Mercedes. So the
Well, we
battle
need
for
to
the podium.
remember, we won the clocks back by about half hour. War Daddy was mid-pack. He's now sitting on podium if he keeps his cards right.
Exactly, he was battling down with Captain Nick for, I believe, P17 after about 5 laps of this Grand Prix. Really is, it really does affirm. I know some people might say, oh, you keep going on, just keep racing, anything can happen. Because
Reminds me of my race in
anything
Brazil.
can happen.
My race in Brazil a few weeks back, if you remember.
Exactly, what a comeback it must be said. The man sitting beside me in the cold comms here, a lap down, pretty much bang on at the start of the race, kept it going, and through a multitude of, what was it? It was a P, was it P2?
P2, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't mind.
P3, P3.
P3, yeah.
P3 is what I finished.
From being a lap down after like 3 or 4 laps of the race to coming on the podium just shows that anything can happen. And yes, some might say that's tier 4. It is a little bit more chaotic. The grids aren't as close. So obviously when there's not as close grids, there's less battle and there's less chance of instance. But let me tell you, it happens at every level. And it happens at this level as well. And it's probably happen just in a couple of minutes time because tier 1 should be kicking off very, very soon. Stick with us for the next 3 laps before you jump across to that though, because you've seen the last 34, you might as well see the last 33, you might as well see the last 3.
Let's say the Ferraris. Oh, and there's a spin from Strauss, I think, who's now obviously being blue flagged. The Ferrari boys, they're on their way for that one too.
Key as well, maybe DeRoy could be looking at a pen from the stewards. We'll leave that up in there. We're going to assume that everything's okay and just carry on as it is regardless. But that might still be in his mind. And, a 4.2 second gap it is to P3. So he'll be trying to stretch that out as much as he can. Waitsy then is going to try and make a move.
Waitsy is hunting it down though.
Podium position. Steiny going for a late dive down at the inside on the Mercedes and gets the move done. Steiny knowing he needs to stick with Waitsy.
Fresh softs. It's them soft boys.
Steiny, of course, the fresh softs, using it into action. He knows that he needs to get past War Daddy. He can't be held up behind War Daddy because then Waitsy escapes with the podium. So Steiny is going to be fighting this fierce for the final podium with Waitsy now that they both cleared War Daddy. 4-star might be looking behind at McConey and less ahead, but there's still that battle raging on for P6. Yellow flags in sector 2.
I believe that's one of the Alfa males which is caused that.
I think it might have been I think it was Strauss. Hobbsy has just came through. He is on the lead lap. And speaking,
it is such a shame for Strauss. Having such an amazing start to this race.
He had such a good run, and then a coming together with DC.
And the unfortunate thing is, with it being just 13 drivers left, he's going to be the only driver that crosses the line that doesn't pick up
sorry,
any
the jump in, Rob. The two Ferraris going side by side into turn 3. There's been contact on the final lap, and DeRoy is out of this race. The Tifosi, as their team manager, is fuming. And, drama on the final lap. That is
take back what I said about Strauss. He's going to pick up a point.
He's just going to sneak in. Like you say, the top 12 getting a point here. Steiny up onto the podium. He's battling out Waitsy for...
Does that technically class as commentator's curse, Scott? Because that would be my first one.
I would say so. And there could be a penalty in the works for D-Morts, but Steiny is tight on Waitsy. We're going to jump on board with this battle until we get the Ferrari coming up to the line.
Which he's doing now. He is on the last corner. And he is going to bring it home.
Is going to cross the line in provisional first. It could have been a Ferrari 1-2. It should have been a Ferrari 1-2. Waitsy in second, a quarter of a second ahead of Steiny. War Daddy, what a recovery from him.
Amazing
4-star
drive.
comes home in P5 ahead of McConey P6, Cole Paradox P7. Hobbsy then is, I believe, the last of the drivers. No, sorry, he is not going to be the last on the lead lap. Indian Jesus is going to round the final corner to take home P9. And sadly for Strauss, it's not going to be a point because he has completed less
lap
laps
down.
than DeRoy. And DeRoy's completed 90% of the race distance.
So he'll still get points.
He will still be classified and still get a solitary point. Farrell and Clark PR round off P10 and 11. I believe Steiny got the fastest lap, but
I can't believe what we just witnessed in those last couple of laps there, especially between two. We've got to get the Ferrari lad in. We need to get D Mortz in and find out what exactly happened from his POV.
It was a straight. It looked like a side-by-side battling out for the win, and at the same corner, we seen a couple of incidents occur. It happened once again. It's incredible. Waitsy coming from the right of the back
race
through to second in the last safety car. Big recovery drive from them. Steiny, of course, having a spin coming up to P3. Mental, incredibly mental race.
What an amazing race that had everything apart from rain.
The only thing that didn't rear its head was the clouds, but it had pretty much everything else. A mad race. Let's see if any of our podium sitters fancy a chat. See if we can get any of them in. I know Steiny always likes to come join me for a chat. There's your final standings there then, folks. D Mortz takes the provisional win from first on the grid to first at the checker flag, but some controversy, an incident with his teammate on the final lap. RDR Waitsy comes in P2 from 8th on the grid, with Steiny going from 3rd to 3rd. Interesting though, Waitsy doing a 4-stop, Steiny doing a 3-stop. War Daddy P18 to P4. To me, he gets my driver of the day just with that drive alone. 4-star P5 ahead of McConey, Cole Paradox, Hobbsy, Indy Jesus and Farrell rounding off the top 10. Club PR and DeRoy, the last of the points scorers, with DeRoy of course DNFing 1 lap before the end. Strauss does round off our finishers, P13 a lap down, with DC, Greek Bill, Nosey, Captain Nick, T-Griff, Tobes do well all retiring. Indian Jesus though picks up a bonus point from P9 with the fastest lap, and it looks like Waitsy is up for a chat, Steiny is up for a chat, but sadly D Mortz doesn't have a mic to come and chat to us, so we'll get P2 and P3.
It's just that was a great race to watch, a great race to commentate on. I'm so glad that was my first race to commentate on, especially with having you beside me as well, Scott. It was not a dull moment at all.
Not at all. It was one of those, had a little bit of everything, and hopefully isn't the last time we get to see you in the CRL comms booth. We've just added then our P3 and P2. We'll try and get a little quick chat with the pair of those quickly before we signed off. Let's see what they say. Steiny then is the first to join us. Our P3. Steiny. That race, we've just said that race had a little bit of everything. Can you sum it up for me in a couple of sentences?
In a couple of sentences, a lot happened. At the beginning, amazing qualifying for the Alpine team, McConey, myself, top 3. At the beginning, everything was fine. I spun by myself, which was devastating. I got last, and then I was catching Hobbsy, and then we had a safety car restart. And then I got tapped by Hobbsy, so I was at the back again. And I was just like, just stay calm, it's a mental game, it's a long game, anything can happen. And luckily we still had, I think, 2 or 1 safety car still. And then yeah, I had an amazing battle. Heads off to Wetsy. Sorry if I can't pronounce it. But it was crazy at the end. There were 4 people battling. A lot happened.
Yeah, it was one of the we struggled to keep up at times. It was one of them, but we did notice, you know, obviously you're down near the pack, and P3 in qualifying. I know you quite well as well, Luca Steiny.
Yeah.
I know you pretty well. I know you're quite a cool head. You're quite a seasoned racing driver, shall we say? So we did actually mention that this is a pure example of he's going to be one that'll stick it out, and things might come his way. They might not, but it's an example of racing to the flag, and you showed it off to perfection. We've seen as well in the final stint, obviously yourself and Waitsy were catching up on War Daddy for, what was it, at the time P3 before the Ferrari incident. Waitsy got the move done into turn 1, and you were a little bit back, but it was a bold move and you made it sick. I'm assuming, now, I'm wanting to delve into the mind of a driver here. You knew you had to get past War Daddy to stick with Waitsy and have a chance at getting him.
Yeah, you know me too well. I was thinking, okay, if they are going to battle, like they're going to be side by side, the outside car has to go the long way around. If he's going to try a switchback, I'm just going to be there and block his space. This is why I broke a little bit later and went straight behind him. And I knew, as you said already, he was on mediums. I had to pass him. I know Waitsy is a very fast driver, and I have to stick with him. And in the end, we were both on -5 ERS, it felt like. And it was just a sweaty battle until the end. I was trying to make him like a few mental games on the last lap, but he kept cool, stayed on the line. I was like, yeah, it was a great race in the end. Hats off again.
And I suppose my last question before I'll hand you over to Rob for anything he has. 20 points guaranteed tonight. Well, not guaranteed, but pre-Sturden, shall we say. There might be a few moves in here. It looked a pretty clean race on your end, blame-wise, shall we say. That puts you within 7 points of Cross Liam. Are we going to see another Steiny championship battle?
Man, since the first race, I was like, okay, my goal is going to be finishing in the top 5 to get the most possible points, and thinking long run. Of course, you have some down parts, which happens. Like, I had one very bad race where I didn't get points, but I'm here for the championship. Liam, I'm gonna battle for the championship until the very, very end.
Brilliant. Love to hear that. Looking forward to watching it, hopefully commentating and maybe occasionally racing in it for the future. Congratulations on your P3 tonight from me, Steiny. Rob, have you got anything to add?
No, it was an amazing race, Steiny. It was great to watch, and then to be my first race to commentate on properly. But we now have to look forward to next week, which is, of course, Baku. What's your thoughts about going, obviously, around Azerbaijan?
Well, I just hope I'm not going to do a Leclerc. Everything else should be okay. But I'm going to, like I did for Netherlands, because this is my first season with no assist at all, so I'm learning very slow on the no line. I'm going to absolutely sweat it on TT. I'm going to get my strategies down and going to be prepared. And hopefully we'll have some amazing battles again. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, you can't say fairer than that. You really can't. Obviously, a massive congratulations again, obviously, on getting P3, and I look forward to watching, obviously, your continued push for this championship.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely brilliant P3 from Steiny tonight. He was pipped to the post, though, for P2 by RDR Waitsy. Waitsy, you've got to be happy with that result tonight. Of course, you dropped down, I think you were a Tier 1 reserve, was it? Or Tier 1 full-time? Into the Tier 2.
That's correct, yeah.
2 grid. Your first points here in Tier 2. You've got to be happy with a podium.
Boys, yeah, that race was something else to be involved in, I'll tell you that. Didn't have the greatest of starts. Quali wasn't brilliant for me. Got involved, well, I was the innocent bystander in a couple of little incidents. One cost me my front wing, so I spent most of the race, you know, sort of just hanging around at the back. And then obviously Steiny joined me at some point. And it was just a case of praying for that safety car, and then obviously we got 2 in very quick succession, and then it was, well, there's only sort of 8 laps left, and I've got used soft, so let's gamble and see what happens. And What can I say? It paid off handsomely in the end, I think that.
I say I'm glad you've mentioned that, because looking at it, you pitted the most. You came P2 with a 4-stop.
Yep. What can I say? 4-stop sometimes the way, but yeah, it was. I just sort of gambled on the situations at the end. Like I say, there was short time left. I knew I didn't have any fresh softs to go into, and I thought, if I'm going to have a chance of getting any reasonable points back, I can't stay on the mediums because I'd be on roughly the same tyre as most of the others. So I thought, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. Obviously, aided with a couple of incidents that happened around me, but yeah, catching. Was it who was P3? Who did I pass with P3 in the end?
It would be War Daddy and Mercedes.
War Daddy, yeah. I knew I had to go for that move. I thought, if I'm going to get a podium, I've got to make the move and make it stick. So obviously, into turn 1, sort of braved it, lined it up, and managed to get a win. Obviously, Steiny straight behind me, followed me through, and I was like, right, this is going to be how it's going to be for the last couple of laps. And I tell you what, his mind games nearly worked, but I managed to keep it cool at the end there. And yeah, all I can say is that was probably one of the funnest races, the worst race to funnest race I think I've competed in a long time. So yeah, GG's to the top 3. It was, survival of the fittest, I think.
Absolutely. I think this is probably my record for commentators curse, and the fact that I caught 4 retirements on stream as I was commentating on how well they were driving.
Hey, just speak with the viewers at home, Scott. You were in the right place at the right time.
Well, I've hit the entertainment factor, which is more than I do on a Monday night. Normally in Monday night in Tier 4, and I'm just watching somebody do something random, and then there's a huge pile-up or a huge incident, and I'll completely miss it. But I was on the ball tonight. I've got to say, a huge, I think you pretty much say it yourself, but a huge push at the end there. Pretty much dead last at the final safety car on the restart, cut your way through the field, and when it mattered the most, you kept your nose clean, you made the overtake stick, and yeah, a tremendous drive to P2, a nice solid 24 points as well.
Thank you very much.
Surprisingly, starting P20th, or P20th, sorry, in the driver's standings, of course coming down from Tier 1 with 0 points, starting afresh, you're pretty much in the mid-pack already after a couple of races. Do you know what I mean?
It's definitely a good start. I now just want to get my head down, get as many points as I can, and finish as high up as possible. That's what I want to do, and just enjoy the rest of the season.
That's it. With a quarter, about a third to a quarter, the calendar going. You've got the pace definitely and the potential to make a championship charge. It's just, do you have the races? It's maybe a little bit out, but a top 5 there and thereabouts is definitely on the cards. I suppose my last question for you is Baku. It's a little bit different from Zandvoort. How are you feeling for that next week?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually raced Baku on this game yet. That's how I've not played it, really. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time, probably later in the week, maybe early next week, just sort of spend an hour sort of getting to grips with it, and we'll just go again next week and hope for the best.
Probably one of the most honest and probably one of the most truest opinions you can give about a track. Normally people say, "Oh, I'm really good at it. I'm this and that." That is from the heart, absolute truth there. Love to hear. No, congratulations from me once again for P2, Rob. I don't know if there's anything you want to add for Waitsy.
No, once again, amazing drive, man. Obviously a 4-stop. That race had everything. You've not raced
really
around Baku.
Yep.
Just watch out for the castle. I think you'll be fine.
I am stupid. I switch off.
I'd be surprised if we make it through next week without one of those incidents. But no, Steiny, Waitsy, thank you very much both for joining us for a quick
Thank you very much.
chat.
And GG Steiny, that was, like I said, great battle at the end, bro. Great battle.
Yeah, very much enjoyed. I can't wait to race it again in Baku, and also
Same,
to
man.
you, Scotty. It's great to hear you, but it was a bit, it's sad not to see you on track.
You take it with one hand, give it with another. I can't race and com, sadly both. And as things are standing right now, I'm probably better off commentating than racing because At least I know how to pronounce the drivers' names. At least I don't even know how to get my car going. My car doesn't even want to go in the right direction at the moment. I don't know what's going on. So, but we'll be back. We'll be back for F1 23. I can assure you in season 9 for Cohen. But in the meantime, you've just got. To
you heard it here first
voice.
as well. That's the first mention of season 9 confirmed there as well, boys.
Oh no! It's gonna be
Not
going
been
off.
mentioned until tonight.
The head admin chat's going to be going off. You mentioned it already or not? You put me in there, Rob. But no. Once again, congratulations to you two for your podiums tonight. Definitely well earned results. And a big thank you,
bro.
to my co-commentator here, making his debut, the man from the southwest. I'm right.
Yeah, it's correct.
I'm right. Yeah, I can't remember that. We're going to say Dover because that's the other side.
Oh, that's southeast, mate.
It's all England,
mate. Southwest.
Southwest. We'll just stick with the southwest.
Southwest.
He has had an absolute spider dub on the comms box tonight. It is, of course, Spider Rob. Make sure to check back on Monday night though, because what happens at Monday night at 8:15, Rob? You take to the track and I take to the comms booth once again.
You do.
And we'll be kicking off the week in Baku. Tier 3, of course, will be kicking off at 7:30 on the same day. And make sure to go across and check out Jay Mace. He takes us round Tier 1. But I'm going to leave it up to you, Rob. That's all from me. Catch me on Monday night. I might be back on Thursday, but I'll let the final sign off to you, my friend, on your glorious debut.
Yeah, what's it called? Obviously, thanks so much for obviously listening to me waffle on with Scott. Obviously, it's my first time commentating on this. Hopefully, I haven't been too boring or too for you guys. But if you want to see a driver plough into a castle on Monday, make sure you tune in with Tier 4, where inevitably my Aston Martin's going to get told out the side of it.
And now, if that isn't an advertisement for Cohen, I don't know what is. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful night.